Today, we're going to talk about how to buy a vacation rental property. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do you buy a vacation rental property? It's a great question and it deserves some attention. So by the end of this video, I will show you exactly how to buy a vacation rental property and what I did to acquire 6 within 14 months. So why would you even want to own a vacation rental? I think a better question is, why wouldn't you want to own a vacation rental property? I love the vacation rental property industry. Vacation rentals are usually in awesome areas anywhere in the world, and they can be unique properties that make money every single month. But they allow you as the investor or owner to be able to travel there and visit there and stay there yourself if you ever wanted to. But first off, step number 1 is you need to buy one. And I will show you exactly how by first going through the research required before you even think about buying one. Next, I'll give you the data and the numbers you need to look at to make sense of owning one. And finally, I'll give you the ins and outs about how to finance them, along with some hacks that can help you bypass the traditional financing. If you're ready, let's go. So what research is actually required before you even think about buying a vacation rental property? So first thing I did is I went and I looked and I searched on Google the best places to own a vacation rental property. And I saw a whole bunch of publications from a whole bunch of different places. And I started looking at those publications and started looking which properties, which areas were in the top 10 for each of these different publications. And obviously I started within the United States first because that was a little bit easier. And I knew as far as acquiring financing for it, it would be a lot easier doing that inside the United States. So as I started to look at areas within the United States, there began to be a few areas that started to bubble to the top more than others. Once I had the areas that I liked, I started comparing those areas with the data that I found on AirDNA. Now, AirDNA is a site that compiles all the data for short-term vacation rental properties and puts it in one location. The website is airdna.co, and there's paid versions and there's free versions. But what AirDNA does, it allows you to look at the data from the area that they actually pull from people that stay there, from host property management companies, and it gives you 3 vital things that I like to look at, which is occupancy rate, the average nightly rate, and the average monthly revenue that comes in from those properties. And there's one other factor that you can get from AirDNA that is also really important that most people don't talk about, and it's called RevPAR. And RevPAR is the revenue per available rental, and it's calculated by dividing by the total revenue earned by the number of available listings. It's used a lot in the hotel industry or the hospitality industry, but it's a figure you need to look at when you're on AirDNA. Another thing that's important is regulations. So one area we bought a short-term rental, there's a big discussion going on right now at city meetings, county meetings, where they're talking about how many people can you stay with a certain amount of bedrooms. And right now you have some cabins up close to Yellowstone where we own a vacation rental that are allowing 15 people maybe to stay in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath or 3-bedroom, 2-bath because they have a huge loft upstairs that has bunk beds all throughout the loft. Now the challenge is that's putting a lot of stress on the septic and sewer systems in the area, because when you have 15 people staying using 2 bathrooms, it becomes a little overcrowded. So they're saying, listen, we need to limit the amount of people that can stay at these vacation rentals and align it with a bedroom count. So they're saying 3 people per bedroom are allowed to stay at these. But you got a lot of vacation rental owners that are in a big fuss, and understandably so, because they bought the property thinking that they had a rental that would allow for 15 people staying there. So it's a big debate going on right now. Fortunate for us, we bought a property that had 7 bedrooms. So the fact if they take it to 3 per bedroom, we're still okay. We always advertise of being able to host 20, 21 people at our property. The other thing you need to look at is the proximity to attractions and number of visitors every single year, foreign and domestic. How many foreign and domestic visitors attend the area that you're looking to buy? If you take, for example, like the Smoky Mountains, right? Every single year for probably the last 20 years, there's been roughly 12 to 13, 14 million people that annually visit the Smoky Mountain National Park. So that tells you consistently you're going to have a good number of people that are going to be able to fill up your vacation rental. So doing the research on how many annual visitors is really important. Part of this, you have to factor in seasonality. The home we own close to Yellowstone, obviously during spring and fall, it starts to die down quite a bit. Summer is amazing. Winter is awesome with the snowmobiling and other attractions there during the wintertime, but there is seasonality, and you got to factor in seasonality when you're looking to buy a vacation rental. You just can't take the best month of the year and say this is how it's going to be all the time. You've got to be able to factor in the times when there's low periods as well. And you've also got to look at established markets with short-term rentals that are available in that market. Too large a supply can mean a challenging market unless you do something to set yours apart to be unique and different from all the others out there. Another area to look at is optimal size. How many beds, how many baths? What is mostly rented in the area? If you buy an area that's maybe a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and traditionally it's a family that goes goes and visits there close to a national park, you're probably going to miss out on a lot of opportunity when you could have spent a little bit more money to get just a little bit bigger vacation rental. So understanding what is typically rented there when it comes to size of the house, bedrooms and bath is going to be key when you're doing your research. Another thing that I like to look at is the year built, right? Because if it was built many, many years ago, you got to factor in that you're probably going to have more maintenance expense every single year than a property that is fairly new. When I bought my property in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, it was a fairly new property, about 3 years old. I knew that I wasn't going to have very much expense going into that property. Whereas when I bought my home in Blue Ridge, Georgia, my vacation rental there, it was built in 1999. I knew there was going to be a little bit more expense going into that. And sure enough, we even put new railing on the deck, and there was numerous things we had to fix right from the get-go, but it wasn't a ton of money outlaid, and it gave us the opportunity to update and make the cabin a little bit more unique compared to other ones that are out there. And the last piece of data that you need to understand is your guest profile. Who are you attracting? What type of people are you trying to attract to stay at your vacation rental? Who do you want to cater to? So once you've looked at all that research and you've got answers to those questions, that'll help you determine where and what to look for, and if it's even a good starting point for you to start your vacation rental business or to purchase a vacation rental property. Let's talk about the financial numbers, right? Now here's a general rule of thumb that's a quick analysis when it comes to vacation rentals, short-term rentals, and this is something that I always look at that kind of gets me the initial analysis right from the get-go that says, hey, put a little bit more time and effort into researching this, or hey, stay away from this. And it's this: whatever the annual revenue is, it should be at least 10% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a home for $500,000, it needs to do at least $50,000 in revenue annually to even begin the research on it. If it's below that, I don't know if I would consider that, right? If it's at least at 10%, you can start looking at to see if there's ways you can increase revenue or increase occupancy rate, but that's a general rule of thumb. If annual revenue is 15% of the purchase price, that's a pretty good deal. That's one that you might want to consider pulling the trigger on. And if annual rents are 20% of the purchase price of the vacation rental, then that is a do not pass up deal in most scenarios. Now you need to do all the research on that, but those are hard to come by. Those are really hard to find. So if you find one where you're getting 20% of the annual rents of the purchase price, man, if you pass it up, send it my way. I'm happy to look into it. And also with vacation rentals, another financial aspect you need to consider is appreciation, right? If it's in a high demand area, then that's something that could instantly increase the value of your property. The first vacation rental I bought close to Yellowstone, that was the first one that I purchased. And just in a couple of years time, the appreciation of that property had gone up probably 20, 30% just in a couple of years because the demand was growing for that area where a lot of people were looking to buy vacation rentals or second homes, and there wasn't a huge supply on the market. Now, when it comes to the financial analysis of that, obviously that's a general rule of thumb. It's a quick analysis that'll allow you to say yes or no about doing further due diligence. If you really want to do a financial analysis, I would recommend a short-term rental calculator, a vacation rental calculator, where you can put in all the numbers, right? You can get the insurance, the taxes, the expenses, the utilities, the maintenance, the capital expenditures, plug those all in, and it'll spit out for you whether it's a good deal or not. That's probably the in-depth analysis that you need to do once you determine off the basic analysis if it's even worth exploring even more. So let's talk about how to finance your vacation rental. Now, obviously there's a traditional route, right? You go to the bank, say, I want to buy this property. And if it's an investment property, they're probably going to ask for 20 to 30% down. Now, there are programs out there that if you go and say, this is my second home and it's truly a second home or it can be shown as a second home, you might only have to put 10% down. That's what I did on my Blue Ridge property, and my partner that I went into business with on my Broken Bow property, he did the exact same thing. So we're able to put down only 10% and leverage the rest. Those have been amazing cash on cash returns because the little amount of money that we put down on those properties, and we're able to leverage those. But traditional bank financing, they're going to ask for a lot of different information from you to make sure you can service the loan. Another loan is what's called a DSCR loan, and these are specific for investment properties, specifically for vacation rentals or short-term rentals. And DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio, or they're looking at the cash flow of the property to service the loan. And these are for residential income producing properties, as I'd mentioned. So rather than looking at the borrower's income, they look at the income that's being produced from the property. So the nice thing about this, they don't need any W-2s, any income verification. They just need the verification from the property that is producing the type of revenue that could service the loan for the property. And most times, as a general rule of thumb, they look for 15% down and at least a 12-month rental history to show that debt service can be covered by the income. And it's awesome. It's a potential great opportunity for a refi of a property. So what if you don't have any money to put into a vacation rental? Are you completely out of luck? Are there any hacks you can do that allow you to participate in this awesome industry? There absolutely is. And the first thing I would say is find a partner. If you can find a property that is producing a cash on cash return of at least 20%, I can't imagine that there's not somebody out there that would put the money up to receive that type of revenue. Most people I know usually know somebody that's money that they trust, love, care about, that's willing to put money into something as long as it's a real asset that's producing revenue. If you find a property that's producing a 20% or more cash and cash return, I'd be interested. Contact me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Or if you know of an area that is exploding with vacation rentals and you don't have financing or you need help, talk to me. I'd love to engage in a deal with you. The other one that's pretty simple, doesn't require any money, any partnerships, is Airbnb arbitrage. Right? I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but essentially it's finding a long-term rental that has rules and regulations that allow you to rent it out at short-term rates. You secure that lease over a long period of time and you rent it out nightly. I know of a development down in Florida, close to Orlando, that a friend of mine has numerous Airbnb arbitrage rentals there. She has secured them with long-term rents and she rents them out nightly. I think she pays about $1,500 to $2,000 a month for each rental, and probably through nightly rentals of about $200 a night, being occupied at 50, 60, 70% in that area on average, is pulling in $3,000 to $4,000 a month and paying the long-term lease of $2,000 a month. So making $1,000 to $2,000 off of that property and not outlaying any money other than first and last month's rent. Now, if it needed to be furnished, obviously you got to put the furniture in there. You got to pay for the cleaner, but it pays for itself, and it's a way to get involved in this industry with little to no money out of your pocket. Now, these are some things that I've done, that I've seen on how to buy a vacation rental property or get involved in this industry. I'd love to hear what you've done. I'd love to hear hacks that you've seen. And as I mentioned before, to really evaluate a property, you need a vacation rentals calculator. And I actually have one for you at no cost, free of charge. Just click on the link below, aaronsfreetraining.com. It allows you to put in all that data I said, and it spits out to you whether it's a great deal, and it even gives you the cash and cash return. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.